The day I saw my daughter-in-law walking down Main Street holding another man's hand, laughing like a woman in love, I realized I was keeping a secret that could blow my son's whole life apart. And it wasn't the first warning sign. For weeks, I'd watched her smile at her phone in a way she hadn't smiled at my son in a very long time. If that already makes your stomach tighten, you're not the only one. Before I tell you what I did with what I saw, do me a small favor. If you like having these long, honest family stories playing while you cook, clean, or just sit and rest, tap the like button and subscribe so YouTube knows to bring you back to Aunt Ruby's table the next time I share a story. Now, let me tell you how I ended up choosing between my son's heart and the truth. My name is Helen. I'm 70 years old, a retired school secretary, and I've lived in the same Texas town for most of my life. The grocery clerks know my name, and the pharmacist has seen me with every hairstyle I've tried since 1983. I have one son, Mark. He was the kind of boy who organized his toy cars by color and cried if he got a B. When his father left us for a woman from his bowling league, Mark was 12. That was the night he looked at me and said, "I'll never be like him, Mom. I'll never do that to someone." I believed him. I still do. Maybe that's why the day I saw his wife with another man felt like betrayal on more than one level. Mark married Lauren when he was 27. She was bright and pretty, with a quick laugh and a way of making everyone feel like they were the most interesting person at the table. She worked in marketing, which I understood to mean she spent her days trying to convince people they needed things they didn't know they wanted. From the beginning, she called me Mom, even though I told her Helen was fine. "No, you're Mom," she said, hugging me tight the night before the wedding. "You raised the man I love. That makes you Mom." It was hard not to love a girl who said things like that. They bought a little starter house 10 minutes from mine, a ranch with a patchy lawn and a garage that never quite closed right. They painted the front door blue, planted 2 rose bushes, and filled the kitchen with mismatched mugs from thrift stores. For the first few years, they were that annoyingly adorable couple. Weekly date nights, inside jokes, burnt pancakes on Saturday mornings that they ate anyway. I'd come over to babysit their dog and find sticky notes on the fridge that said things like, "Have a great day, love bug," and "Don't forget you're amazing." Then, life, as it does, started piling on. The company Mark worked for merged with another one, and suddenly his 40-hour work week turned into 60. He started sleeping with his phone on the nightstand, taking calls at all hours, living off black coffee and whatever takeout he could eat one-handed while answering emails. Lauren's job got more demanding too. Her firm landed a big client, and she was promoted. Promotions sound glamorous until you realize they often come wrapped in longer hours and higher expectations. They bought a bigger house, farther out, with granite counters, and a mortgage that made my eyes water when they told me the number. "It's fine, Mom," Mark said. "We can afford it, and it's a good investment." Every time I heard that word, investment, I felt a little chill. I'd seen plenty of couples invest in square footage when they should have invested in time with each other. They started trying for a baby. It didn't happen as easily as they'd hoped. "I feel like my body's failing me," Lauren confided one afternoon, tears smudging her mascara. "Everyone's pregnant but me. Every time someone posts another ultrasound on Facebook, I want to throw my phone across the room." I held her while she cried in my kitchen. I made her tea and told her what women have told each other for generations, that her worth was not tied to her womb, that these things sometimes take time, that she wasn't alone. Meanwhile, Mark retreated into problem-solving mode, the way he always did when life got hard. He read articles, tracked ovulation charts, suggested doctors. When the tests started pointing toward low chances, he shut down. "It is what it is," he said, jaw tight. "No point in dwelling on it." But Lauren needed to dwell. Infertility was chewing up her insides, and a closed door of a husband didn't help. Their laughter faded. Their date nights turned into quiet evenings in front of different screens. The sticky notes disappeared. I noticed. Mothers notice. I also noticed the phone. At first, it was little things. Lauren's phone lighting up during Sunday dinner, her eyes flicking down, mouth pulling into a smile she tried to hide. The way she'd excuse herself to the hallway, her voice soft and low. One night, after we'd cleared the dishes, I walked into the kitchen with the dessert plates and found her leaning against the counter. "No, I can't talk now," she said, turning away from me. "I'll call you later." When she realized I'd heard, she jumped. "It's just work," she said quickly, shoving the phone into her pocket. "A client." Maybe it was. People work odd hours these days. The world doesn't seem to keep office hours anymore. But you live long enough, and you learn the difference between the look of someone dealing with a client and the look of someone dealing with a secret. Still, I said nothing. It wasn't my marriage. Then came the afternoon on Main Street. I was driving back from the library, a stack of large print mysteries on the passenger seat, when I had to stop at the light by the little coffee shop on the corner. That's when I saw her. Lauren, in a sundress I'd never seen before, her hair loose around her shoulders, looking younger than I'd seen her in years. She was walking down the sidewalk with a man I didn't recognize. Tall, dark hair, maybe mid-30s. He was the kind of man you notice even if you don't want to. Confident, easy smile, the sort of posture that says he's used to taking up space. And they were holding hands. Not the casual friendly kind, fingers laced, swinging between them. She laughed at something he said, tilting her head back in a way I'd only ever seen her do with Mark in their early years. The light turned green. Someone honked behind me. My foot hit the gas and the car rolled forward, but my brain stayed back on that sidewalk. For a second, I told myself it could be anything. A cousin I didn't know, an old friend, maybe she'd stumbled and he'd grabbed her hand to help. But I'd watched people my whole life. Kids in hallways, parents at conferences, couples at school concerts. I knew the language of hands. That was not a safety grip. That was intimacy. The rest of the drive home is a blur. I pulled into my driveway and sat there with my hands on the wheel, heart pounding, feeling like I'd swallowed a live wire. What do you do when you see something like that? I thought about my own marriage, about the night I found a lipstick-stained napkin in his coat pocket that didn't smell like my perfume, about the lies he told me, and the ones he told himself, about the way everyone told me later we had a feeling, but we didn't want to interfere. I had sworn, back then, that if I ever found myself holding the corner of someone else's secret, I wouldn't just fold it neatly and tuck it away. But this was my son, and that was his wife, and my hands were shaking. I didn't call anyone that day, not Mark, not Lauren, not my best friend from church who would have given me her opinion in 3 seconds flat. I prayed instead, nothing fancy, just the same sentence over and over. Lord, show me the right thing to do, because I do not trust my own judgment right now. The next time I saw Lauren, it was at Sunday dinner. She brought a salad and a bottle of wine, hugged me hello, and complimented my earrings. She looked radiant, softer somehow. I couldn't unsee the way she'd looked with that man, and it made every smile feel suspect. During dessert, her phone lit up on the table. The name on the screen said, Connor, work. Her eyes flicked to it, then up at us. I should take this, she said. It's about the campaign. She slipped into the hallway. I could hear the murmur of her voice, low and warm. Mark was busy telling me about a big project at the office, but his eyes kept darting toward the hallway too. He looked resigned, tired. Is work always calling? I asked casually, dipping my spoon into my cobbler. Always, he said, shrugging. She's got some big client now, Connor something. They're on the phone all the time. It's good, though. Means she's in demand. He said it like a man trying to convince himself. Do you two get any time together? I asked. Just you? He smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. We're busy, Mom, he said. It's just a season. Things will slow down. I nodded and said nothing, my stomach nodding. That night, lying in bed, I replayed every moment. The hand-holding, the laughter, the phone calls, the way she'd lit up when that name flashed on her screen. I thought about calling Lauren, asking her directly, but what would I say? Are you cheating on my son? People don't usually answer yes to questions phrased like that. A week later, I got my answer whether I wanted it or not. I had an early doctor's appointment across town. On the way home, I decided to treat myself to a coffee I didn't need from the same little shop on Main Street. Old women are allowed small luxuries. We've earned them. When I walked in, the bell over the door jingled. The place was half full. Students with laptops, a group of moms comparing toddlers, a couple on a first date trying to impress each other with stories that sounded practiced. And in the corner, at a small table, sat Lauren. Across from her was the same man, Connor, presumably. They had 2 mugs, a shared plate of something, and a small universe between them. Her hand rested on the table. His was on top of it. I froze. Before I could decide whether to turn around and leave, Lauren looked up and saw me. For a second, the blood drained from her face. She snatched her hand back like the table was hot. "Helen," she said brightly, too brightly. "What a surprise." Connor turned halfway, polite smile, eyes flicking between us as if trying to assess the threat level. "Hi, Lauren," I said, my voice sounding strange to my own ears. I didn't mean to interrupt. "You're not interrupting," she said quickly, already standing up. "I was just having a work meeting. This is Connor, from the agency." He stood up, offered his hand. "Nice to meet you, Mrs. Davis," he said. "I've heard a lot about you." I shook his hand. It was warm and dry, a business handshake, but the space between them hummed with something that wasn't business. "Well," I said, "I'll let you get back to work." "I was just leaving," Lauren blurted. "I have to go. I'll call you later," she told him, grabbing her purse. "Helen, can I give you a ride home?" she asked, as if we'd come together. "I have my car," I said. Her eyes pleaded. "Please," she said quietly, "just wait for me outside. I'll be 2 minutes." Against my better judgment, I nodded. Outside, the sun felt harsher than it had a minute before. I waited on the sidewalk, watching people go about their day, as if the ground wasn't shifting under my feet. Lauren came out, moving fast. "Can we sit in your car?" she asked. "I don't want anyone from church walking by and seeing us talking like this." I unlocked the doors. We sat in the parking lot, air conditioner humming. "Before you say anything," she said, "yes, I know what it looked like." I don't want to talk about what it looked like. I want to talk about what it is. She stared straight ahead, gripping her knees. "He's my coworker," she said. "We started working on a campaign together last year. We just clicked. He listens, he gets me, he knows what it's like to work late and be exhausted and still feel like you're not enough." The words came out in a rush, as if she'd been holding them in for months. "It started as work talk," she went on, "then life talk, then, I don't know. He started checking on me, asking if I'd eaten, if I was sleeping. He noticed when I got my hair cut, when I wore a new dress. We started grabbing coffee. It felt harmless. I just liked feeling seen." Her voice cracked. "When did it stop feeling harmless?" I asked. Tears spilled over. "I don't know," she whispered. "Maybe the first time he grabbed my hand when I was crying in his car after another negative test. Maybe the first time I deleted our messages so Mark wouldn't see them. Maybe the day I realized I'd told Connor things I'd never told my own husband." Silence. "Have you—" I struggled to get the words out. "Have you slept with him?" She shook her head quickly. "No," she said. "I swear, we haven't. But sometimes, Helen, I think what I'm doing is worse. I go to bed next to your son, and my heart is with someone else. I know it's wrong. I know. But I feel like I can breathe when I'm with Connor. And with Mark lately, I feel like I'm suffocating. The confession hung in the air between us. You know Mark would be devastated, I said quietly. You know that, right? I know, she cried. That's why I keep telling myself I'll stop. I'll block his number. I'll quit my job. And then I think about going back to just silence, and I panic. She turned to me, eyes red. I'm not a bad person, she said. I'm just so lonely. I thought about my son, buried in work, probably thinking he was being a good man by providing. I thought about Lauren, drowning in grief and unmet expectations. I thought about how many women my age had been on the other side of this, the betrayed one, the last to know. Does Mark have any idea? I asked. I don't think so, she whispered. He knows I'm fried. He knows I'm sad, but he doesn't ask questions. He just tells me it'll be fine and goes back to his laptop. I want to scream. And what do you want from me? I asked gently. She let out a sound somewhere between a laugh and a sob. I don't know, she said. A time machine? For you to tell me what to do? For you to keep my secret until I figure it out? There it was, the thing I'd been dreading. Lauren, I said slowly, you know what it felt like when your father-in-law cheated on me. You've heard that story. You know how much it broke Mark to watch that. He promised himself he'd never do that to anyone. And now we're here. I know, she moaned. I hate myself. You think I wake up feeling glamorous? I wake up feeling like trash. I sat there, an old woman in a hot car with someone else's pain bleeding all over my upholstery, and realized there was no choice that wouldn't hurt someone. If I said nothing, I became an accomplice. If I told Mark, I might blow up their marriage before she'd even had a chance to confront her own mess. I can't carry this for you, I said finally. I love you, but I love my son too. I survived a secret once, watching everyone tiptoe around it. I won't do that again. She looked at me, eyes wild. Are you going to tell him? She whispered. No, I said. I'm going to tell you to tell him. Soon, before lies become the third person in your marriage permanently. Before you cross lines you can't uncross. She swallowed. And if I don't? She asked. Then I will, I said, voice shaking, because he deserves to know what life he's living, and so do you. She flinched like I'd slapped her, then nodded, tears streaming. Give me a week, she said. Please, let me figure out how to say it. I owe him that much. I agreed. I don't know if it was wisdom or cowardice. Those 7 days were some of the longest of my life. Every time my phone buzzed, my heart jumped. Every time I passed their street, I wondered if the conversation had happened, if suitcases were being packed, if lawyers were being Googled. On the 6th day, Mark called. Mom, he said, voice hoarse, can I come over? Of course, I said, my heart sinking. He arrived looking like he hadn't slept in a week. His eyes were red, his shoulders slumped. He sat at my kitchen table, the same one where he'd once done homework and eaten after-school snacks, and stared at his hands. Lauren told me, he said finally. I sat down across from him and waited. She said there's a man at work, he went on, Connor. She said she hasn't slept with him, but she's been emotionally involved, taking calls, meeting for coffee, thinking about him. All of it. He laughed bitterly. She actually used the phrase emotional affair. I didn't even know that was a thing. It is, I said quietly. She said she felt lonely, he continued. She said she's been trying to talk to me for years, and I haven't really heard her. That I throw solutions at her instead of just listening. that she feels more like a project manager in my life than a partner. He rubbed his eyes. I wanted to scream at her, he said. I wanted to pack her bags and tell her to go live happily ever after with Mr. Perfect. But instead, I just sat there. Because as much as I hate what she did, part of me knows I haven't exactly been present either. Tears spilled over. Am I just like my dad? He choked. Did I mess up my marriage without even realizing it? I reached across the table and grabbed his hand. You are not your father, I said firmly. He lied for years and then walked away. You worked late and missed the signs, but you're here now. That matters. He took a shuddering breath. She said she's willing to cut it off, he said. Quit her job if she has to. Go to counseling. She said she doesn't want to lose me. Do you want to lose her? I asked. He stared at the table for a moment. Long time. No, he whispered. I'm so angry I can hardly see straight. But I don't want to lose her. I don't want to start over. I don't want to spend the next 20 years wondering what I should have done differently. Then you have your answer, I said. Anger and love can sit at the same table for a while. Counseling can help them talk to each other. He looked up at me. Did you know? He asked suddenly. Be honest, Mom. Did you know something was going on? The question hit me like a wave. I thought about the coffee shop, the hand-holding, the parking lot confession, my promise to Lauren, my promise to myself. Yes, I said softly. I suspected, and then I saw them together. She told me before she told you. His jaw tightened. And you didn't tell me? He asked. I told her to tell you, I replied. I gave her a deadline. I wasn't going to keep it forever, but I thought it was better coming from her than from me. I still do. He leaned back, processing. I don't know how I feel about that, he said honestly. Part of me is grateful you didn't blindside me. Part of me feels left out of my own life. I understand, I said, and you have every right to feel both. We sat in silence, the kitchen clock ticking loudly. Finally, he spoke. I asked her if she wants to stay married, he said. She said yes, but she also said she can't go back to the way things were. That if we're going to stay, we have to actually change, not just pretend this never happened. He shook his head. Do you think marriages can survive this? He asked. Really? I thought about all the women I'd known. Some who left, some who stayed and shrank, some who stayed and grew, some who rebuilt something new on top of the ruins. I think some do and some don't, I said. The ones that do are the ones where both people are willing to face ugly truths about themselves, not just about each other. He nodded slowly. We're going to counseling, he said. Real counseling. And she quit the account with Connor. She showed me the text where she told him it was over. I watched her block his number. That's a start, I said. He looked so young then, my 60-year-old body, seeing the scared 27-year-old who'd stood at an altar promising to never be like his father. I don't know how to look at her without seeing him, he whispered. Then look at her and see you, I said. The you that's capable of forgiving, or not. Either choice is yours, but make sure it's your choice, not your father's ghost making it for you. He smiled sadly. You always were good with words, he said. Not always, I replied. If I'd been better with them earlier in my own marriage, maybe things would have gone differently. Or maybe not. But I do know this. Secrets rot from the inside. I'm glad this one's out in the open, however messy it is. Months went by. They went to counseling, they fought, they cried, they almost separated twice. There were nights when Mark slept in the guest room. There were mornings when Lauren came over to my house with puffy eyes and sat at my table, hands wrapped around a mug, saying, I don't know if we're going to make it. And slowly, like a bone knitting after a break, something began to heal. Not magically, not neatly, but genuinely. I saw them take walks again. I heard them laugh in the backyard one afternoon over a burned burger. I watched Mark put his phone away on purpose during dinner and actually look at his wife when she spoke. One day, over Sunday lunch, Lauren squeezed my hand. "Thank you," she said quietly when Mark went to let the dog out, "for not covering for me, for making me tell him. It was the worst night of my life and the best thing that could have happened." "I still think what you did was wrong," I said, "because truth matters." "I know," she replied. "I do too. But I'm also starting to understand why I let it happen. And he's starting to understand how I ended up feeling so alone in a situation. House with another person." She took a breath. "We're not who we were before," she said. "I don't think we ever will be. But maybe that's okay. Maybe we can be something deeper, less shiny, more real." I squeezed back. "I hope so," I said. If you're listening to this and you found yourself in a similar storm, whether as the mother, the wife, or the husband, I want to tell you something I wish someone had told me years ago. You can't control other people's choices. You can only control whether you live in truth or in denial. If you're the one who's seen something you wish you hadn't, you're allowed to insist on the truth without becoming the judge and jury. You don't have to plaster on a smile and pretend you don't know, and you don't have to burn the house down either. There is a hard, holy middle ground called honesty. If you're the one whose heart wandered, it doesn't make you a monster. It does make you responsible. You don't get to blame loneliness forever. At some point, you have to decide whether you're going to keep feeding a secret or starve it and tell the truth. And if you're the one who's been betrayed, you are allowed to feel everything: rage, grief, love, confusion. Don't let anyone rush you to forgiveness like it's a finish line. It's a road, and some people never walk all the way down it. That's okay too. The day I saw my daughter-in-law holding another man's hand, I thought it might be the end of my son's marriage. It wasn't. It was the end of the pretending. Sometimes that's the only way anything real gets a chance to begin.